Okay, so 2015-ish is when I became a real guy out there in the night, going against bad guys and using my brain a lot and getting a lot of respect in the industry. And by the time 2019 came around, I'd been on 5 combat deployments. I had led men at night to kind of the safest way possible to do what the government was asking us to do. And if you guys know what Army Rangers is, it's kind of like the real umph of the fighting force, right? So Army Rangers don't really go in when somebody might be a good guy in the house. It's only for bad guys, right? So we focused on this, and we were so particular to each little event that we went through. Uh, it kind of resonated in the industry, and we got a good name for ourselves. So I kind of carefully make my way over there, and I take my last knee by that window right out of its way next to this little wall that was about 2 to 3 feet high. And I take a knee, and I do, whatever you do when you're about to do something dangerous, say your little kind of, okay, here we go. And I take 2 steps, and the wall next to me explodes. And it was huge. And I've been blown up before, but never something that hurt me or something of the nature that caused injury. And it was awful. It was awful. For the first time in my military career, I was like, oh man, we got beat. I didn't see that coming. We got beat. And I said, William, I am really banged up. Don't expose the force. Meaning like, hey, I'm going to die for sure. Don't put anybody else in the way of what we don't know that's over here. He said, no, RD, I'm coming to get you. And he came, hooping and hollering over walls. And he gets to me, and we've been together fighting a long time lately. And I look, and I'm like, Bo, it's my right side's hurting bad. And I'll never forget. He looks at me and he goes, yeah, Dave, it's not looking too good. And he's kind of funny, and he's got that kind of half serious tone in his voice. And I thought, okay. So I knew at that point, I'm gonna go on whatever's next. If you believe in the sort of like I did, I was like, well, here I go, God, coming up in the express lane. If I did anything wrong, we'll be there in a minute. We can hash it out. I was prepared. I said a prayer for my wife and for my son, and that was like the clearest prayer I've ever prayed. And now I kind of know how to pray only from that one prayer, because I assumed I was going to die. Anyway, in that moment of combat, as I stepped off of that wall, and that wall had a bomb in the side of it that shoots like the legs out from somebody. And so I triggered that bomb on my third approach to that hole, and that bomb triggered the grenade also that I wear on my belt. So at a millisecond, you can hardly see it on the ISR. It looks like one explosion, but if you slow it down, the explosion coming into me was met and triggered by the grenade that it set off in my pouch. They hit each other. No one knew that at first. And I hear it, and it's close. And I'm like, no way, but I think I'm going to get out of here. And this is about maybe 40 minutes after I got hurt. And I hear it. And then I hear, it's hard to say exactly what I heard, but I heard disruption in something that was working properly and then started to not work properly. I heard, and I heard all this weird kind of mechanical shutdown noises going off in the background. And I thought, what the heck? And I look over, and I only have my nods. So we go out at night and wear night vision. My nods was sitting right here, and I only had one that was working. I look over down in the valley, And I see that helicopter like cruising down, smoking out. There's fire coming out of the tail. And I kind of feel everybody's energy getting bummed. And I hear Doc come on the radio and goes, "That's unacceptable." Then he comes back to me. And I go, "Dude, Doc, what was that, the medevac?" And he's like, "Yeah, they lost the tail rudder. They're not going to be able to pick us up." And I'm not going to lie, it's weird to say you quit, but I quit. Meanwhile, I'm saying he's having a bad time when I'm missing a leg and an arm and an abdominal laceration the size of a basketball. And I'm going, "John, man, I hope he's going to make it, man." You know, to change your mindset and to change the way you see something in such an awful scenario. The power behind it is it's unexplainable in a way, but it's there. And I promise you'll feel it in life if you haven't already. At this point, we're probably 2 hours stuck in this valley, and everybody's praying that this night is over. This is not any of the hero that anybody signs up for. This is like the stuff that you're probably going to carry that you don't talk to people about or that people don't know about. And finally, we can hear that glorious noise. Alston's doing okay. I'm doing, and I mean, I wouldn't call it okay, but I'm still alive, which is a miracle at this point. And I hear it. I hear all of those helicopters coming to get us. Oh, 3 of them. They were going to land spread out down there in the valley. We all knew which ones to go to every time we left. Kind of like a bus stop or a bus number. And we get close and I can feel us moving. And I remember I felt the heat off of the helicopter. We were getting close enough where I could feel the heat of the helicopter and the rotors. And about that time, I hear a gun go off. This dog had just run off into the Afghan night and be at one, and then showed back up and bit the person that was operating the machine gun in the woods. And gave these 30-something dudes an opportunity to run over to me. And they all ran over. Every one of them got there. Not one person got killed. And they all got in the helicopter with me. And you can see this on ISR, and someday you'll see it in a movie. But the dog comes bolting out of the woods, running for the helicopter. Everybody gets on the helicopter, call it up to the pilot, let's get out of here. And here comes this dog. Last feet onto the ramp, crawls into the helicopter with us, and just sits down. Like, "Hey, everybody." We're like, "You just saved, you just saved, you don't have a gun, you just saved the day, buddy." And it wasn't over right there, though. And he goes to take off and he says, "Hey, we're twice as heavy. I don't have enough fuel to get us home." I said, "Danny, just get us out of here. We'll figure out fuel later." And he goes to lift up, and we're so heavy, it's like shaking like an off-balance dryer. He can't get out of the valley. Danny says, "We're going to have to take the river home." And I knew the river to be a place of you don't go to, because on the other side of the river, there's a place they called no man's land, and you definitely don't go there. And we went there. We did for 93 minutes. We took that flight home, and the enemy shot off the landing gear of the helicopter. The battlefield stuff I was kind of cool with in a way. I'd been in that industry and kind of like desensitized to the effects of it, but never had to live through the sustained effects of an injury. Oh, I got blown up. I didn't die. this is day one of recovery. And the doc told me it was no good. I only had about a 20-30% chance of living. And that sucked, because even though you're fighting, everybody who comes through that door to see you, to love you, to give you a hug, they're saying goodbye. They might not be saying goodbye, but you can feel the energy when somebody gives you a hug for possibly the last time, and when somebody is just coming in to bring you, chicken nuggets or something. So I kind of started there. Okay, my family already thinks I'm dead. That was a bad place to start, something like that. I told her to go away. I told her I didn't want her and Knox to have to burden this. Tried to run her off. She's a stubborn woman. And she wouldn't leave me to myself. We got into this together. We're getting out of this together. That's what she used to say. So I asked her to marry me again. We did this super cheesy thing at the hospital. I buy her another wedding ring. So that kind of sucked. But either way, it was like a whole nother marriage. And I wanted it to work the way it wanted to work. So in that was kind of step one of everything we had in front of us. And at the time, we had a 6-year-old boy. And he was the only one that didn't care. He was the only one that didn't care. He jumped into the room, and I'm laying in bed. I don't have a 50% chance of living, but Knox is jumping up and around bed, and Dad, you don't have any legs. I was like, I sure don't, buddy. And he goes, that's awesome. And he's like doing this thing on the bed. He was the only one that wasn't affected by Dad getting hurt. And so what do you do from there? You fall in love again. You travel. Take time for your kid. And that's when Dawn and I met for the first time. She came into this house, and this house is like the size of, my garage nowadays, but it was real small, real tight. And I was using this enormous chair at the time, and we had these tight hallways and no bathrooms. And she was my first real exposure to somebody that was just there to help. Had a product that could definitely help when I learned how to use it, but she was just there to help. And it was such a kind of a rewarding feeling. And we didn't have, in special operations, we didn't have a whole lot of room for, anything to not be super secure. So the places that we had to train in this chair were like training sites for the special operations department. And me and Don are back there in my van learning how to drive the ibot. It was touching and it was moving. And since then, I've taken the ibot from, I think the furthest east I've gone, probably Barcelona, France, Italy, Spain, Sicily. And I think the furthest west I've gone is I fished those waters off of Alaska that are kind of Russian. And the ibot's been through both of those, So from north to south, it's been to Belize, I don't know how many times. I want you to know that what you're doing, the innovation, the idea, and the direction is really changing the way people can live their life. And if it's worth it to them, the capabilities are endless. But I trust your chair very much. I remember being in Alaska. My wife and son are like, hey, we're going to go do this thing, ride a snow dog sled or something. And I'm like, okay, man. And I'm thinking I'm just going to stay in town. But then I see this trail over there going up this mountain. I'm like, well, I got to do that. And I'm alone in my ibot. And like, here we go. I'm in four-wheel on this trail in Alaska with nothing but like bears on it. and I get about halfway through the trail and I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
but
could just go so bad so fast. So I remember going out of situations like that, and I just want you to know that there's somebody out here that truly feels your work in their everyday life, and there are people thankful for it. I am very comfortable trusting the ibot, both reliability and, durability. I think the power between those two is what I really do trust. You know, I've always thought that like inclusion's always been like this kind of hidden language in between nature and other people's expectations. That's what it really is. That's what when people like me are looking at it, like, do I want to go be included in that, or are the expectations of them going to make it too weird, or is nature going to make it too hard? Those are how you will really learn how to see inclusion. And I think that, I'm thankful that you guys like you are sitting around in the background, kind of making that happen for me.